This is my third attempt at this intro. Don't know why, it's just my brain's not been working. So here we go. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Raihan and I'm a final year medical student, and I also make YouTube videos. Now, last year I took a year out of medical school and did what is called an intercalated year. Now, in an intercalated year, you can choose to do any other degree or a master's in 1 year, and usually it's funded by the NHS. I chose to be quite radical and went to do a degree in management. This degree that I did has multiple names. I've heard people call it healthcare management. I've heard people call it medical sciences with medical management. Business and management, various different things, different words to describe it. But essentially, it's everything that everyone has described it. It's got healthcare sciences, it's got accounting, it's got business, it's got management, it's got economics as well. Honestly, this degree was perfect. Like, it was everything that I could ask for in one degree. And now it taught me the foundations of many different areas in which I can now then expand my knowledge. So why am I making this video? Well, this is part of a video series called Ask RH, where I will be answering your questions. Number one, was this degree worth it? Yes. The short answer is yes. It was by far the most valuable, or one of the most valuable years that I've spent in medical school. And the reason I say this is because normally in a year, in an intercalated degree, you might learn, for example, anatomy of a certain field, or pediatrics, or biotechnology, etc. However, this encompassed so much. Yes, it was hard, but it encompassed so much. So, for example, we did a module in accounting, so management accounting, financial accounting, health economics. We did entrepreneurship, business strategy, one of my favorite modules. We did sustainable business. We did so much, and we covered so much in 1 year. Now, speaking to some of my friends who did accounting and finance, or who did a degree in management, said that what we covered essentially in one term was what they tended to cover in a year. Every term, we were essentially completing a year's worth of content. Considering that's 3 terms, we completed a whole degree in 1 year. And that was intense. Trying to balance a management degree with your personal life, with your extracurricular activities, and the degree itself was horrific. Like, I really struggled with that. So yes, it was definitely worth it, but be prepared because it is very hard as well. So first question was, was it worth it? And yes, I've answered that. It was definitely worth it. The second question, how hard is it? How difficult is it? Well, as I've explained with the first question, you're doing a year's worth of content each term. And like I said, I figured that out by speaking to my friends who had done a degree in accounting and finance, or management, or business. And the stuff they covered in 1 term is stuff they covered in 1 year was what we covered in 1 term. Like I said, it's very fast paced. You're constantly given deadlines, and then you've got exams, and then you've got your research project. It is the most intense year I've ever had to date. But it's worth it. Yes, it is very hard. However, it's very group orientated, and it requires you to be able to work effectively in a team. I've worked with some of the best people. I've worked with some of the worst people I've ever met in my life. However, you know what? It's all an experience that I cherish and that I've learned from, and I appreciate that. That year was excellent. That answers the question, how hard was it? I've also spoken about a lot of the content that we covered, but I'll speak a little bit more about it in detail. So my favorite modules, which really stood out to me, were health economics, because I really like economics, but this gave it a complete new twist or new perspective. So this was economics in the perspective of a healthcare system. So let's take the NHS. We covered how the NHS, or how a healthcare provider, can assess the economic feasibility of a certain project in comparison to what's already being done. Let's take the example of prostate cancer. So for this, we have, conservative and medical management, and then we have surgical management. So how can we figure out which provides the best use of NHS resources? Basically, how much value per pound spent can we get from both of these? Which one adds the most, quality adjusted life years to the patient? Looking at things in the NHS from that perspective is unique. It's something that we don't get taught in medical school. And like I said, for me, it combined my passion for economics with healthcare. And when you put both of them together, you get this interesting perspective. I also enjoyed entrepreneurship. I really enjoyed business strategy. Now, business strategy is something that I genuinely find interesting anyways, because it's fascinating to see how different businesses monopolize or how different businesses operate within their market. This was a whole module studying what is effective, what isn't effective, what works, what doesn't, and frameworks to assess business strategies. It was honestly really good, and we had a really great teacher as well, and that made it fun and interesting too. We also had behavioral management, so organizational behavioral management and human resource management, which is a very long name, but it's OBHRM. It basically uses behavioral psychology in a human resources setting, and it's a very modern perspective on how to run a team, the use of culture in a work environment, and intrinsic, extrinsic motivation. If you are planning on becoming a CEO of a company, this stuff will help you a great deal. So again, OBHRM, lovely, and the teacher, the lecturer that we had was brilliant. Honestly, Imperial did a great job in selecting who they, majority of the lecturers, Imperial did a great job in selecting, because we got top quality, world-class teachers, some of them CEOs of huge companies themselves in the past. Some of them, taught at very reputable places, for example, Harvard. So we were very lucky in that sense. With group work, this was, you either love it or you hate it, and you will switch between both sides of the spectrum throughout the year. Now, there were times where I loved my group, and that's because, we bonded really well, and out of, 90% of the group I was friends with. There were times where 50% of the group I was friends with, or the other 50% I just despised their work ethic, or just despised how they approached situations and scenarios. It's an interesting one because in medicine, you never get to experience this, not on this intense level. Yes, I've done group work before in medicine, we've done group presentations, but not where every project, every week, you have to see these people day in, day out. You have to communicate with them at home, you have to communicate with them at uni, and then you got to see them, and then you've got to work on projects with them. And then, some of these people you have to spend a lot of time with, and that can be frustrating, especially if you don't get along with them. So I think, the people that really struggle with this might be the ones that haven't really had much exposure to teamwork, and maybe haven't really brushed up on their work ethic yet. That really goes to show. For this, I think go in with the attitude where, I'm here to do my best, I'm here to perform my best, and there's a lot of accountability as well. My name will be on this work, and therefore I need to produce it to the best of my ability, and I also need to prioritize this degree because it's not just my results, it's the results of all of the other students in my group, that is dependent on this piece of work. So group work is a very difficult one because the people I had in my group, you may not necessarily have in your group. The types of personalities I had, maybe you might not come across them. But I had a difficult time, but I also had a good time. And, some of the people I had in my group, we actually genuinely became a lot closer because we were in a group. And, some of the boys we still speak now, and it's really nice because they're lifelong friends because we managed to get that close through this group work. Now, the other thing for external students, so I managed to get Imperial Accommodation, I managed to get Imperial Halls. I chose the costume store because the costume store was the perfect balance of price versus location. Now, I wasn't too fussed about location, but I was struggling with, financially at that point, because I was going to be in London, solely relying on the NHS bursary, and I wasn't willing to take up extra jobs that year because I just knew I wouldn't have the time. If, like me, you're in a situation where money is or could be an issue that year, then go for the costume store, because the location is perfect, right? You get on the tube, the Central Line, from North Acton, and you're in South Kensington very quickly. I enjoyed that commute that morning because it was that time alone to myself. Now, a few people did ask me, we live in the same accommodation, oh, we should get the tube together. No, please, leave me alone. So, North Acton, the costume store, perfect location, gym very close by, shops very close by. The area was decent. I mean, yes, there were some stabbings and etc., but it was generally okay. Just be careful. Yeah, and I met some great people at the costume store as well. Again, good friends of mine now, even though I've left London. That's the accommodation. And yes, external students can get accommodation from Imperial. You don't have to look for private halls. I would recommend you go through Imperial rather than get private halls, because my friend paid £200 a week for private accommodation, whereas I paid about £130 a week for the costume store, Imperial halls. Anything that I would change having gone back a year? I think the main changes that I would make would be to sort out a routine and a good morning routine. I managed to, complete the degree. Yes, I managed to get what I wanted from the degree. However, I really struggled with a morning routine, and that's what is necessary. I've noticed in my final year this year, I'm waking up, say 7 o'clock, and from 7 o'clock I can work on what really matters to me, my most pressing issues, and then I can go into the hospital, or I can choose to study, and then I can carry on with my day. With Imperial, my timetable was erratic. It was some days you're in lectures at 1 o'clock, some days you're in lectures earlier, some days you don't have any lectures at all, and some days it's just group work. Some days you might not even go to your lectures, and I honestly wish I did that every day, got my work done by a set time, and then focused on my assignments, and then set myself some time for studying. I wish I studied throughout the year. I actually crammed quite a lot, which obviously it never works. I wish I didn't do that. Luckily, I've got notes from a lot of the stuff that I've covered, and I still look through some of them now, just because a lot of the content is genuinely interesting, stuff that can help you today, and is applicable with any ventures that you consider doing later on in life. Wake up early, have a routine, and also finish working at a set time. Don't overwork yourself. A lot of people did all-nighters, but then they'd crash. What's the point of doing all-nighters when you're going to crash? I think other bits of advice would be, from the first day, make sure you start figuring out who you'd like to work with in your final project. Your final project makes up 50% of your degree, so your final project is very important. You want to pick the best people at what they do. But remember, there's a term that they described, creative abrasion. Find people that are diverse and have a diverse skill set. So I might be good at video editing, I might be good at videography. However, I might need someone who's really good at marketing, or I might need someone who's really good at research, because your final project will require a lot of research. So someone who's got experience of research or audits or posters, perfect. That's what I needed for my group. Someone might need me because they wanted to create some video content, digital content, perfect. So then I was a perfect fit for them. Now, when we came together as a group, we then had different ideas, different perspectives, and we all bounced off each other, and that was really good. So find a diverse group of people, because you're going to need that for your final project, which is 50% of your degree. But yes, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully that answers all of your questions. And remember, I'll be doing more of these Ask RH videos very soon, because this is part of a series that I'm going to be doing. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm going to be doing medicine videos up until my finals, and then hopefully I'll be moving on to other videos. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.